I was in Iran when the protest broke out. And I was there for 3 weeks. Since I was there a week before the protest broke out, and then 3 weeks after that, while the protest was going on, when it was like really crazy. Okay, now I personally saw none of it. I mean, I saw all the police and the military, and places were cordoned off, and sorry, cordoned, not cordoned, cordoned off, and things like that. Um, but the thing with the protest is you actually have to go to that area where they are protesting to be able to see what's going on. And I never went to those places because, it's their protest and I'm just a tourist. But, and then again, I couldn't see much on the internet because Iran had blocked all internet sites, well, not all, most of it. The only social media platform I could get onto was Reddit, which I never used, but I started using it because that was the only way I could get news. The other thing is that even I have VPN. All my VPNs got blocked. It worked maybe for the first 3 days, and then the government got clever and they blocked all of those as well. And I have a lot of Iranian friends, so even I couldn't WhatsApp them to ask how they are, if they are activists in the protest, if they're just watching or whatever, because I couldn't contact anybody. I couldn't even contact my family or my friends unless they had email. I could use my Hotmail, but I could not use WhatsApp. And everybody uses WhatsApp and Facebook and all this Facebook messaging, all the social media messaging. So it was very difficult. But I did manage to find two people who, thank goodness, still use their email, so I could email them to tell them we're okay, and etc. etc. Anyway, so what I noticed, but the Iran protests, besides all the stuff I told you, is that the little bit of information I could get, like from Reddit, was that women, and like some news, like I could get Al Jazeera, I could get The Guardian sometimes, not all the time, sometimes, is that women were burning the hijab and cutting their hair at protests. So this was interesting to me because, I was also an activist during the apartheid era, so, we had a way of doing things. So to me, what was just strange was that, so, I mean, I didn't see this, but I know and I hear that women in protest are going out there and they are removing their hijab, burning it, and some are even cutting their hair. Now, I don't know if this was actually also happening in Iran, but I know the cutting of the hair, it was happening in other countries in support of the protest. But I don't know about the Iran cutting of hair, but I know that the burning of the hijab was happening in Iran. And then, but what I've learned and observed while I was there is that people were very upset, even women, that women were burning the hijab. Because, at the end of the day, the hijab is a symbol of Islam. And most women don't necessarily see it as a symbol of oppression. They see it as a symbol of Islam. So they took offense to the burning of the hijab because it was like an insult and offensive to Islam. It's like they are not, now these protesters are not fighting the Iranian government or protesting the Iranian government. They are protesting Islam, which most women I spoke to did not agree to it. And then what happened is this kind of caused a division. First, everyone was, yeah, and then suddenly it was like, chip, nope, yes, okay. So that's just what I observed. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying that's what I observed. And then also, the other thing that I personally found strange was that, you see, all these protests happen only at night. So and I can hear, I mean, I didn't go to the areas, but I can hear the firecrackers because, the protesters throw firecrackers, and I can hear the gunshots. And, I can hear people chanting and shouting and cars honking and just, like chaos. So I can hear it, because normally we used to stay like 2-3 blocks away from these kind of protests, because they normally happened in the Maidans, in the squares. And but then I noticed the next morning everything was just back to normal. You'll see everybody going to work like normal, the streets are clean, there's nothing, I don't see much damage. And the women are still, they're going to work, women and girls, but they're still wearing their hijab and totally covered up. Not totally, but they wear Western clothes. But I mean, they're still wearing the hijab, which to me was strange, because I thought, because I went out without a veil on my head, without covering my head, because I thought, oh, it's protest, so it's okay. And everyone was looking at me. And then I put my hoodie on, because I wear hoodie. But then I thought, this is so strange, because I would have thought that if you are protesting the enforcement of compulsory wearing of the hijab, and you are already protesting, so this is known, then you have to, and you already took it off in public, then you have to leave it off. And if you're doing it in solidarity, there's not much that the authorities can do. I mean, they can detain you, but I mean, they're not going to kill you or whatever, because it's already out in the open. So this I just found strange, because like I said, I would have thought they would just take it off and that's it. Just next day go to work in protest. Like you go into your office and then take it off and sit there and be in protest, or go to school or get on the bus in protest, stand on the street in protest, like not wearing it, because that the issue was the hijab. I mean, that's one of the issues, okay? Because we know there are a lot of other issues, but I'm talking just about this one issue. So this was strange, because like I say, I was an activist during the apartheid. So there were things like we were not allowed to, just a small thing, example, like sit in the park on certain benches, it will say whites only. So during the protest, we would go and sit on those benches, because we are already protesting. And they know that one of the things we don't want is the segregation. So I would park my non-white butt on that bench. And then I spoke to some friends of mine from Hong Kong about it. And they said they had the same thing with the Hong Kong protests and stuff, that it just didn't make sense. And then we came to the conclusion, I don't say we are right, we just came to this conclusion that maybe, like the Iranians, plus, and also the people in Hong Kong, are not ready for this kind of big fight. Whereas like us in South Africa, we did it, and like we didn't care, we were not afraid that something bad would happen to us, like we would get detained, get thrown in prison, maybe even killed, because it was already at that level where we were willing to sacrifice even our own lives. So maybe, this is just our opinion, okay? Maybe these protesters are not ready to fight the big fight. Especially the women, they are not ready to sacrifice themselves, because I know a lot of people saying, oh no, they cannot do that, because then the police will come and they will hit them and they will kill them, and they didn't say kill, they will hit them and they'll detain them. Then it's like, yeah, well, that's how you go about making change. You have to sacrifice, and even if it means your life, then but anyway, that's just my perspective and my opinion, and it could be totally off, but I'm just telling you what I saw and what I think.